So the Fatah mutiny was bitter and costly, and intensified the concern of Arafat and his colleagues about the emergence of rivals, especially those under the influence of hostile regimes. This comes from page 176, The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. The concern was well founded given the efforts by the movement's adversaries to create alternatives such as the village leagues in the occupied territories. Notably, Hamas, founded in 1987 and initially discreetly supported by Israel with the objective of weakening the PLO, was already beginning to develop into a formidable competitor. What? Let's get the full context, okay? This alarm at the possibility of the superseded was at the root of the PLO leadership's jealousy of the Intifada's local leaders, especially as their following grew within Palestine and the global media came to view them positively. How can that be? I thought Hamas is like the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. It was founded in 1987, so Hamas has been around for 38 years. 38 years? I mean, they're pretty much the establishment at this point, aren't they? Well, let's check out, okay, so 19, chapter 5. For details, see Richard Sale. Israel gave major aid to Hamas. Major aid? Like they gave them money? UPI, February 24, 2001, and Shaw, Mishal, and Avraham Sila, the Palestinian Hamas Vision, Violence, and Coexistence. These well-connected Israeli authors make it clear that dividing Palestinian ranks was the aim of the Israeli security establishment, encouraging the rise of an Islamist rival to the PLO. The PLO, of course, Palestine Liberation Organization, Palestinian Liberation Organization. What does Grok have to say? Let's go ahead and ask Grok. In the 1980s, did Israel promote Hamas in order to weaken the PLO? Here's what Grok has to say. Grok 3, the beta edition. Yes. There is evidence that in the 1980s, Israel indirectly supported the rise of Hamas as a counterweight to the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, which was then led by Yasser Arafat, seen as the primary threat to Israeli security. This strategy was rooted in a divide and rule approach. Divide and rule, aiming to weaken the secular nationalist PLO by fostering a rival Islamist movement. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, Israel allowed Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, the founder of Hamas, to operate relatively freely in Gaza. Sheikh Ahmed Yassin established the Islamic Center Al-Mujamma Al-Islami Al-Mujamma in 1973, which provided social services, built mosque, and gained a following among Palestinians. I thought they were established in 1987. How did he? In 1973, he established the Islamic Center, the Al-Mujamma. Israeli authorities permitted these activities, seeing them as a way to counter the PLO's influence, according to Avner Cohen, an Israeli official who worked in Gaza during that period. Israel tolerated and even supported Yassin's early organization because it was focused on religious and social activities rather than armed resistance at the time. By the mid-1980s, this tacit support, including allowing funds to flow to Islamist groups, some of which came from the Gulf states, as long as they weren't directly challenging Israel. Brigadier General Yitzhak Segev, Israel's military governor in Gaza in the late 1970s, later admitted to facilitating such support, though he claimed it was not his intent to create a militant group. However, this backfired when Hamas formally emerged in 1987 during the First Intifada, quickly turning into a violent resistance movement against Israel itself. Hey, America, stop genociding innocent kids, you fucking pricks. Yeah, Israel wants to steal the Palestinian land. Don't fucking let them. Israel wants to steal the land of Palestine, the land of Bethlehem, the land of Jesus, by committing a slaughter of the innocents. Genocide, genociding 300,000, maybe 400,000 children is bad. That's bad. However, it backfired when Hamas formally emerged in 1987 during the First Intifada, quickly turning into a violent resistance movement against Israel itself. Declassified documents and statements from the former Israeli officials like ex-Mossad chief Ephraim Halevi corroborate that Israel's initial policy was to bolster Islamist factions to fragment Palestinian leadership. The logic was simple. A divided enemy is weaker. But this short-term tactic underestimated Hamas's potential to grow into a formidable adversary, especially as it later adopted the PLO's own resistance tactics and gained popular support. So yes, Israel did promote Hamas in its early stages to undermine the PLO, but it was a calculated gamble that eventually contributed to the rise of a new, equally determined foe. All right, that's what Grok says, but what does ChatGPT say? What say ye, ChatGPT? Well, first, PLO is a Palestinian National Coalition, internationally recognized official representative of the Palestinian people of both the territories and the diaspora, is currently represented by the Palestinian Authority based in the West Bank city of Al-Birah. Founded in 1964, initially sought to establish an Arab state over the entire territory of the former mandatory Palestine, advocating the elimination of Israel-mediated talks between the Israeli government and the PLO in 1993, la-di-da-di-da. Okay, so, did Israel help to finance Hamas's founding? I know it's a different question. There is no concrete evidence to suggest that Israel directly financed Hamas's founding. However, it is widely believed that during the early years of Hamas's emergence in the late 1980s, Israel may have indirectly contributed to the group's growth by supporting Islamist factions as a counterbalance to the secular Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, and the influence of Fatah. Israel's strategy at the time was focused on weakening the PLO, and they allowed Islamic groups to operate more freely, hoping they would challenge the more dominant secular factions in this environment. Hamas was founded as an offshoot of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. Some argue that Israel's indirect support helped create an environment where Hamas could grow, though it was not a direct financial investment in the organization itself. In any case, Israel has since been involved in many efforts to combat Hamas, which considers it a terrorist organization. So they didn't finance it, but they did support it. So that's wild, isn't it? Israel supported Hamas. Israel supported the rise of Hamas. So if they didn't finance it, they just promoted it. They clapped. They wrote letters to the editor. Dear editor, I don't know about this PLO, but man, this Hamas is hot. Why join the PLO when you could just join Hamas? Seems a little crazy to me. And I thought Hamas just means dedicated. What does Grok 3 say about that? What does the word Hamas literally mean? The word Hamas is an Arabic term that literally means zeal or enthusiasm or fervor. Hey, you over there, you got too much enthusiasm. So if you're just zealous about America, does that mean you're just Hamassing about America? If you love UK basketball, are you just saying, man, I am so Hamas in UK basketball. I am so Hamased. I am Hamasistic when it comes to UK basketball. It's also an acronym for the Palestinian militant group Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, which translates to the Islamic Resistance Movement. The group, commonly known as Hamas, founded in 1987 during the First Intifada, active in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. However, in its simplest form, outside of the political context, Hamas reflects a sense of passionate energy or ardor. In the Arabic language, passionate energy, ardor. Shouldn't you be passionate for love and justice and peace? Shouldn't you Hamas peace? Shouldn't you Hamas love and justice and forming a more perfect union? If all it means is enthusiasm, you should have enthusiasm for loving your community, enthusiasm for being a good citizen, enthusiastic for just life itself, you know? You know what I mean? And that's why I don't mess around with a runaround Sue. And that's why I don't run. I don't mess around with a runaround Sue. Oh, hey, hey, da 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 da, hey.